Hello everyone, and welcome to Magic Cat Gaming. This is the Magic Cat, and today we're doing another exploration. This one is for Boros. Now, with Boros, there's a you could have gone with some of the more traditional ladder climber E decks, which is the Winonta. But again, I'm trying to avoid some of the more trod ground as far as that goes. So here's something a little different. It is a Voltron style list. Now, let's take a look at these creatures that I've put in here. We've got 4 Beloved Princess. This is not a great card per se. Beloved Princess has lifelink, and Beloved Princess can't be blocked by creatures with power 3 or greater. It's very vulnerable. It can be shocked. It can be, Heartless Acted. It is just so easy to kill. But we're not worried about that per se. What we want is something that's hard to block. And the fact that she won't be able to be chumped later on can be really great because, we are going to hopefully power her up to a point where they really want to block her, but because of that tagline, they can't. Now, we also have a Giant Killer, which Giant Killer purposes here is twofold. First, we really want to kill stuff, which, that's going to kill us faster than we can kill them. And so that's what he's here for. He is hopefully going to take out threats that we just have to deal with. And the best part is that he can deal with a variety of threats via the tap down effect. Now, once we're Voltroned up, we won't really have a whole lot of use for our mana, so we don't mind spending 2 a turn to lock down their biggest threat. So we're feeling good about that. Now we've got 2 Cliffhaven Kitesails and a Shadowspear as the first of the equipment that we're getting to. Now, the giving stuff flying, giving a Giant Killer or Beloved Princess flying, or a token flying, or Akiri flying, all that's helpful. Anytime that we can be not blocked is good. It's not so great on our next creature, which is the Concordia Pegasus, because he already flies, but there is some equipment synergy with that'll make it so that sometimes you do want to actually equip a Kitesail. But we'll get to that. So the Shadowspear, this is only a 1 of. I would probably make it a 2 of, but I only owned one. It has that advantage of, blanking opponents' hexproof and indestructible effects, but more importantly, trample and another source of lifelink. So so if you need to pants up your Giant Killer or a token, you can give them lifelink, and more importantly, the trample. We really do want that trample, and realistically, there should probably be another source of that in here somewhere, but without splashing another color, there's not a lot of good options for it besides just upping the number of Shadow Spears. So if your rare budget can handle it, I would say go ahead and grab it. Pull out a Shining Armor or something else that's a little less useful. Moving on to Shining Armor. So this is not a great card for us. It does have Flash, so it can be a bit of a surprise combat trick, or if they think they've got the removal for something, you can flash it in. If we had a Knight, but actually none of these are Knights, so don't count on that to save you. It's not really going to work out. In fact, the token that gets made is a Warrior, so you're doubly not going to happen. That's just a human, so yeah. You can flash it on end step, but realistically, you're not getting this onto a creature for more than 5 mana, but having, once you've got a sufficiently Voltroned up creature, giving it Vigilance is a really good thing to do. So, they can gain you that life and block as well every turn. Like, that's really handy. Now, we've got 4 Scavenged Blades. These are on here primarily because we just want to be able to end the game quickly, and because you don't have to pay that equip cost the first time around, it basically means that if you've got a creature with a Mirror Shield already, it's a safe play. You can make that creature more powerful, and there's not a whole lot that they'll be able to do about that. Mirror Shield is more butt, and most importantly, the hexproof line. And then the Death Touch insurance policy, which is so incredibly useful. There are a couple of Death Touch creatures that are running around. Mire Triton comes to mind. If you remember the previous video that I did for Golgari, like, that is definitely a card that does get played, but more commonly in the Rakdos mid-range style lists where they're filling up their graveyard and they're bringing back the Titan. Now, being able to ignore that entirely, because they can't block, or we can block them and destroy them before Death Touch becomes relevant. That makes that a non-issue, which is really good. Now, we've got a couple Planeswalkers in the list, and the first one we're coming to here is Basri Ket. Basri Ket lets you attack with your pantsed-up creature indiscriminately, because it makes them indestructible until the end of turn. We can't ignore that effect. That is just way good. So even if they have the ability to tackle block it with just a million creatures, you can still attack in safely because Basri Ket says they are indestructible. So that's an important thing, and then you can use your other creatures to play defense to hopefully keep Basri back on the board if that is the case. But honestly, sometimes just being able to +1 him, and then he's also kind of a bit of a life insurance policy for that way as well, because there is a good chance that they are going to put pressure on Basri as opposed to depleting your life total in the aggro mirror matchup. So he's pretty handy for that as well. Now, Maul the Skyclaves. This is a clear 4 of +2/+2 flying and first strike. That first strike clause is really important because especially on defense, it can make your creatures very difficult to kill, especially once they've got some other equipment on them. But honestly, just getting a Maul of the Skyclaves on something can sometimes win you the game against a control list if they don't have a better answer to kill it. Mirror Shield plus Maul makes a creature very difficult for a lot of decks to remove. They can't use their targeted removal at all on it, and that includes even the enchantment exile stuff. So like they can't Banishing Light it, they can't Elspeth Conquers Death it, they can't Glass Casket it. It's just once that hexproof is there, it's done. Now the Mirror Shield itself is vulnerable to that kind of thing, which is to say they could Banishing Light the Mirror Shield and then Banishing Light your creature. But that does require them to use 2 pieces of removal for that, and to use it on what is otherwise the absolute worst piece of equipment that your character could be wearing. So it's definitely an important piece, but it's also like one of the weakest pieces by itself, which is why it is just... it's a real pain for the opponent to have to remove that first. Moving on, Akiri, Fearless Voyager. This is our source of card advantage. Whenever you attack a player with 1 or more equipped creatures, you draw a card. That's really important because other decks are going to have better sources of card advantage than us, so we really need to make sure that we're doing that. And it's also another indestructible source, being able to unattach equipments to gain indestructible. That lets you play defense, that lets you play offense. Now, with the defense, you have to wait till after you've blocked before you use that ability. And the thing is you don't have the ability to re-equip at instant speed, so you need to make sure that you're still going to kill whatever it is once you've pulled a piece of equipment off of it. But Akiri lets us play a reasonably wide defensive line with a creature on each, and then it gives you something to do with your mana in terms of that. So you still want to have your one pantsed up dude that's going to win you the game, but Akiri can play around with your mana and keep you on the defense as well. While drawing you cards every turn. So, great card. Probably want to save a Kitesail for her so that she can protect herself as well. Nahiri, the other Planeswalker that we're running. Nahiri is a creature battery. I love creature batteries for Planeswalkers because anytime that you are, able to make a dude off a Planeswalker, that's good because it's protecting itself. You can play this against a single creature on the opposing board, and you don't have to worry because you can always, you can use your 1/1 Core Warrior, and then if you've got equipment, you could move it to it. Like if there's a Mirror Shield on the board, you play this, you put a 1/1, you put the Mirror Shield on it, you've now got a 1/3 hexproof, and there's a good chance that it's going to survive to the next turn against the control matchup where you don't have to worry about heavy creature attacks. It's there's just almost nothing that they can really do to remove that other than completely wrathing the board. And if they do that, then guess what? You still got your Nahiri. Next turn, you make another Core Warrior, and you put the Mirror Shield back on it. Now, you've got the -2, which is a great ability. Look at the top 6 cards of your library. You may reveal a warrior or equipment card. Heads up, there's not a lot of warriors in this list. It's just going to be the equipment card. And you put it in your hand and the rest on the bottom. So this lets you dig for your various important pieces of gear. Honestly, if you've already got creatures on the board, if you've already got a creature that is your Voltron, you definitely want to just be -2ing. Keep the Planeswalker on the board, but... but this is also an alternative win condition as well, or a finisher, because Nahiri, the -3 ability, which can be played as soon as it gets played, and it doesn't even kill Nahiri if it's a fresh. You can Deal damage to target creature or planeswalker equal to twice the number of equipment you control. Now, this is going to be semi-relevant, which is to say it's not going to be relevant in every matchup, but sometimes you just need to get rid of something, like a planeswalker that's been giving you trouble. And this Nahiri can definitely do that, because most of these equipments, once they're on the board, they're not going anywhere. Because nobody runs that much equipment, like enchantment or artifact removal. Now, you might run into somebody who is running some. If you're up against mono green, you're very likely to hit that one green creature that blows it up when they mutate, and that's fine. But you're not going to run into somebody who's got more than that, and there's a lot of equipment's just going to hang around. Now that I've said that, I'm sure we're just going to hit nothing but mono green, and they're all like sideboarding in all this extra stuff, even though it's best of one. We'll see how it really plays out. But here's the Embercleave. This is the real reason to play the deck, to be honest. Double strike and trample, and it has that automatic equip aspect to it, and of course it works really well when you're on offense, so being able to turn stuff sideways and bring it in. You can actually use it in conjunction with Akiri and instant speed. It's a little bit questionable to use it that way, and notable with Nahiri that she is the only warrior in the deck that can be pulled by Nahiri's -2. But anyways, the Embercleave, it wins games. You know that already. And especially if you've already got a couple of Scavenged Blades stacked on a dude, if you put an Embercleave on him, there's not a lot that most decks will be able to do about that. So, and then of course, if you're also gaining life off the top of it because it's on your beloved princess, that's a good game. Now for the lands, in terms of the dual lands, we've got Temple of Triumph. It's hard to get away from Scry being such a great card. It helps you keep hands that you otherwise wouldn't be able to keep, either because it doesn't have enough land or maybe not enough action. It really lets you get a little deeper into your deck if you need to. I will probably always play a full play set of these temples whenever I put a deck together, unless it just really doesn't want them because it's that aggressive. And this is an aggressive deck, but it's also more of a but it's not a full-on aggro deck. Like, there's definitely going to be times where you need to play defense. So Temple definitely finds a home here. We've got the Needleverge Pathways, which can be either or, whatever you need. These are really good, in my opinion, but you don't want to play them until after you've played out all your basics that you have in your hand, because the idea is that's where their value comes in their versatility, but they're not versatile once you've used them. So that's a good reason to basically sit on those for as long as you can. We've got a Castle Embereth. This is not great for necessarily for a Voltron plan, because we're not intending to go wide, and this is more of a go wide card. But we do want to have one in there because it is almost free. The likelihood that we don't have the mountain for this to come into play untapped is going to be pretty slim. And more importantly, we're really wanting that ability that, if we do need to go wide, if we do find ourselves in this weird world where we've got a couple of Nahiri tokens, a couple Concordia Pegasi, and a beloved princess and a giant killer on the board, we do want that ability to pump our stuff and go sideways and do a lot of damage. So we're going to go ahead and leave that in there. And then, of course, Castle Ardenvale, the white land creature battery. Like I said, I love creature batteries against the control matchups. Like, Castle Ardenvale can win us games that we would have otherwise lost, just because we're always able to put out a threat. So that's where we're at. We've got 24 lands altogether. We're not going to mess with that number. Let's go ahead and give this a try. We're going to go 2 games on the ladder, maybe 3 if there's time, and we're going to see how this all works out. So let's go ahead and jump in. Golgari from last time here. Now we're going to Boros. So again, we're playing on the ladder because I think that with the ladder you get a slightly better quality of deck. At least in this case, we're only in the silver tier, so you're going to see more reasonable players in terms of you're not going to be facing off against like Pro Tour level players and all that stuff. So hopefully we can get some reasonable games that are not going to just run us over, but at the same time are still interesting, and we're not going to run them over either. All right, so we're going to keep this. We've got a creature, and we've got equipment, and we've got lands. It's really hard to mess up that, they're playing a Fabled Passage, which is, it doesn't mean anything yet. We're going to go ahead and lead with our beloved princess. There's a really good chance that a lot of decks are just going to kill our first creature. And honestly, if that's what happened here, we're going to have a rough time. But the idea is that if they don't kill our first creature, you know, we've got a reasonable chance of picking up and running away with it. And if we get a turn to attack with a Scavenged Blade, then we get a reasonable chance of like getting a little bit of an advantage here. Now there's a really good chance that he's got removal, but our line of play can't really change. We're going to go ahead and play this Scavenged Blade, and we're going to try to attack for 3 with this Beloved Princess. A Thieves Guild Enforcer. Now that's interesting. So they are on rogues. They tried to wait as long as they could on that, and that's fine. Now we can attack in. I don't think they're going to take the trade. I think they want to keep their Enforcer on the board. So we're going to go ahead and attack. See? If we hadn't attacked, we would have lost out on 3 damage and 3 life. So sometimes it pays to be aggressive, and you got to know what your opponent's trying to do. Now they could have the removal for it anyways, and that's fine. But again, we care about that life, because now that's something that they can't really deal with. Okay, so now we've got a Nahiri. Nahiri's great, and the option here is to hold off on the Maul or play it now and have to manually equip it later. And I think that the correct answer for that is to go ahead and wait. And the reason I say that is because we don't get a lot of value out of a Maul that isn't a surprise in this matchup. We want to be able to equip it for free. That's 4 mana value, and we want to get that without having to pay for it, so to speak. Now, on the other hand, there was a solid argument to be made for playing that, because Nahiri makes a token that gets to equip something, so it could have become a 3/3 first strike flyer as soon as it was made, and that's a good card. But in this case, it's going to be a 3/1 flyer, or excuse me, a 3/1 not flyer. The Zareth. Yeah, that's going to be rough, because there's not a lot we can do about Zareth until we get our knight here. No, yeah, the great thing... Oh, there is our Giant Killer. Now, the great thing about this is that he can't steal great stuff from our graveyard, because unless he mills it, you know, most of our stuff isn't going to be there. Alright, now we do want to deal with that Zareth, so what we're going to go ahead and do is we are going to deal with it. He doesn't have another rogue on the board, and we get to play our Giant Killer. And now next turn we get some options in terms of how we're going to move forward. In fact, we could get our Embercleave down, which Giant Killer is not the greatest home for it, but the reality is that with a Voltron-style deck, you don't really care which creature it's on. You just need to stack up those equipment, you know, as high as you can. So most likely what we are going to do next turn is play the Nahiri, and we're going to go ahead and plus her to make a token. Yeah, okay. So we need another red source for the Embercleave, if nothing else. He didn't play anything, which means now I'm somewhat worried about counter spells. So what we are going to do is we're going to try to play a Maul. Okay. And we're going to wait, because there's a really good chance that he wants to flash in something that he can then, you know, utilize to beat me down with on the next turn. I'm going to play D here. I've got the ability to tap stuff down with the creature here. Yep, there's the Thieves Guild we knew about. Not any surprise there. Okay, so now there's some equipment in the graveyard. That could be a little annoying if he gets to steal it, but, you know, not a whole lot that we're really worried about here. We've got the first strike, so the Death Touch on the Thieves Guild Enforcer, should that turn on, is not relevant. What we're really hoping for here is another land or two to basically get up to where we can, you know, cast Nahiri and use Giant Killer's tapping ability. Because I would love to get the Maul onto a token and off of the Giant Killer, so that the Giant Killer can be a little more useful to us. So they're passing the turn, so we're just going to go ahead and tap down their Pegasus. There's not any real reason to do that per se, but we're going to go ahead and do it anyway. So now we're going to go ahead. We're still worried about the counter spells here, so we're going to play out our Beloved Princess again. We're going to move our Scavenged Blade onto it. And then we're going to pass a turn. See what they do. We're playing defense. We are definitely the control deck against rogues. And see, that's kind of why the reason why. So they were able to bounce our equipment, so now we don't have a flying first striker anymore, which is unfortunate. But it's not gone, it's still in our hands, so there's a really good chance that he's going to be looking to counterspell that. Alright, and so now he has killed our beloved princess. Very sad. He still has to mill 3 cards before the Thieves Guild Enforcer turns on. And there's 2. And he can put another with the successful Rankle hit. I'm going to guess he's going to force us to sacrifice a creature. But he is shields down for the Nahiri. Here we go. So we're going to go ahead and Nahiri. We are going to make a creature. And we're going to attach that. And we are going to play this. And that's going to get equipped. And now we've got a 3/1 flyer to block the Rankle. Now, if he's got any kind of removal left, which he very well could at this point, then we're going to lose our Nahiri, and we're back to square zero. And that'll do it. We've basically lost this game at this point. We've got no other creatures, no other ways to really get back into this game. Rogues is a heck of a deck, and little brews like ours have a rough time matching up. So at this point, we're just going to take 6. He's going to force us to discard it. It's really going to be painful from here. So we're going to concede and move on to the next game. Now, Kaldheim might have some new, cards for this type of a strategy. The dwarves look like they're going to have a bit of an equipment bent. So there might be some better options for stuff here. And this is definitely just a first pass at this type of deck. There's definitely better ways to build it. It probably needs more removal. I like this hand. I'm going to keep it. But all that is just to say that I'm not going to recommend this particular deck list for the ladder. Definitely don't recommend it. You're going to have to do some work if you want this one to be a successful ladder deck. But I highly encourage you to go out there and try and do your own thing, because it's just really frustrating when you just run into rogues all day long. So, be the solution you want to be. Don't net deck, yada, yada, yada. Okay. We're going to throw out the Pegasus here. We're not in danger of a Drown in the Lock because there's no cards in our graveyard yet, but we are expecting something to get played, which at this point, no rogue yet. I'm a little surprised by that. I thought we would have seen something. Nighthawk Scavenger. All right. Well, now that's really interesting because our Mirror Shield is just going to eat this guy's lunch if we get to equip it. But in the meantime, we're just going to have to Scavenged Blade. And, and just wait for that. There's a good chance the Pegasus is going to die. Not a lot I can do about that. If Beloved Princess gets down with the Mirror Shield, there's a reasonable chance. We'll take this trade. Honestly, we've got 2 Beloved Princesses behind it. Yeah, that's fine. But that's the kind of thing that Mirror Shield can prevent. So we'll see how this goes. Maybe I shouldn't have blocked there. Being able to get the Mirror Shield down would have been great. But we're going to go ahead and play Beloved Princess. And we're going to get down the Mirror Shield. And now the reason we're doing that is because next turn, if they kill this Beloved Princess, we can then move the already played Mirror Shield onto our new Beloved Princess. Long live the old Beloved Princess. And once that's pantsed up, we'll have a 3-mana creature with lifelink that can very well compete with that Nighthawk Scavenger. And that'll be fine. And then we've got Akiri, which can take another piece of equipment, or we can Basri Ket and start plussing her to really just try to punish them. Now there's a Zarasan. Again, Rogues is just a ridiculously solid, consistent deck, so, like, when you play jank like this, you're going to get, you know, beat consistently. There's not much you can do about that. It's quite unfortunate. Now the good thing here is that we did get our 4th land. That means we can Mirror Shield, and we can play something else. In this case, we'll just go ahead and play another Beloved Princess. We got to gain some life, so we do need to, like, attack with this. Well, we can't really attack because of the Akiri as a blocker, so we're just going to sit back. We need some more power. We need the Basri Ket down. We need to basically be doing stuff that lets us, you know, get ahead, and we don't have that yet. So Zarasan, he's got to hit the 1/1. That's fine. We are going to need to block, and we definitely want to block the Zarasan. That's fine. We'll just jump with the Beloved. Keep our 1/3 around, because we definitely need that to start turning sideways and get us back into this game. It's likely not going to be enough. I can't imagine what card I would draw. Yeah, that's not going to be anywhere near enough. So the equip cost is pretty much a downside there. But we're going to go ahead and play out our Basri just to do it. Just to be like, haha, I have a Basri, and then he's going to counterspell it. Because, of course he does. Rogues is incredibly consistent. And, oh, nope. I guess he just realized that he wins anyways. So we're just going to go ahead and put our counter. Bouncing the mirror. And then I'm going to replay the mirror. And attack, because what else am I going to do? And now we're going to concede because we're dead on the crackback. Alright, so now you've seen a completely awful Boros list. And this is why you don't see a lot of Boros on the ladder that isn't Winota. Winota is a pretty solid, consistent deck, similar to Rogues, but Rogues does what they do better. So that's why there's not a lot of Winota at the moment. Yeah, so that's 2 deck ideas just completely destroyed by Rogues. So we'll see how this continues. Catch you later.